Right. In last session, what is that we have discussed about testing life cycle, what exactly testing life cycle was, right? So all that we have done with. And today is the last session. I'm going to explain you about the database, especially, and in what way it is relating to the business analyst as well as for the project. As a BA, the kind of responsibilities, what is that we need to render? Like understanding the requirements, providing solutions, right? So at the same time, stakeholder engagement, preparing some documentations, writing user stories, and creating some use case and sequence diagrams, all that. Knowledge over testing, followed by understanding over the database is also required, because whenever you see any application in real world, usually application will have 3 different layers. The first layer is called presentation layer.
Okay.
Second is called business or logic layer. And last but not least is called data layer. Understood? So 3 different layers will be there. So presentation layer means what you see on the screen. That's what we call it as presentation layer. Like for example, using HTML, at the same time PHP, DHTML, using Dreamweaver, etc., using all these tools and all that. So whatever you are presenting on the screen, like front page designs, all that, right? Front page designs, etc. All these things comes under the presentation layer. What is that you can see on the screen? For example, you are seeing a login page, right? So whatever the login page we prepare, this login page can be in HTML format, it can be in PHP format. So this is how generally presentation layer is. Any application I'm talking about, right? Technology irrespective of technology, I'm saying this. It can be of any technology, but when there is any project, presentation layer will be on the one. Whatever you see on the screen is called presentation layer. Second, business or logic layer. Here, logic will be developed by writing code for the project. By writing the code for the project. Means whatever the code we are writing for a particular project. For example, being a user, you are clicking on 1+2, right? Whenever you click on 1+2, whenever you are pressing the enter button, you will be getting a result called 3, right? How you got this? Being a user, are you doing any addition? No, you are not doing any addition here. It can be 1+2 or it can be 500 plus 300. There are some instructions which are given in a form of writing code to the system for adding of 2 numbers. So whenever you have given an option called plus, a symbol called plus, automatically system will recognize and it will give you the final number. Understood, Manika? Clear or not?
Yeah.
Right. So whatever the functionality you want to use, means you as a user, I'm saying, for that user to use that functionality, business analyst will give you the requirements. Whatever the requirements business analyst has given, that will be written by the developer. You can see over here, there is a role called developer here. So developer will write the code. Whatever the code and all, everything will be written by the developer. So whatever the code, that will be tested, and once it is tested, immediately that will be going on to live, right? So this is the process on a high level. So in this regard, whatever the logic which is required for a particular functionality, it can be of any functionality. It can be of any number of codes. For example, you may be require multiple functionalities. Let's say that a project consists of, as a whole, assume that there are 50 functionalities, or maybe, for example, 80 functionalities. For 80 functionalities, there are different codes we have to write. So which generally this writing of the code will be done by the developers usually, right? This is the second layer. The third layer, which normally, which normally we call it as data layer. So what is data layer here? We have to create a database so that we can store all the data which is related to the project or an application. Understood, right?
Yeah.
Is it clear to you, Manika? Right?
Yes. Yes.
So there is a database. Database will be is this. See, this is what generally the database was, because we use different databases like Oracle, SQL Server, Sybase, right? MongoDB, different databases we have nowadays. Using different databases, what is that we do is we store the data. So if you want to store the data, there are some data tables we have to create, because this is where generally to know about data, normally we call it as database management system, which is called DBMS in short, right? So DBMS and all that. So this database management system will explain us about how this database and all everything will be of. At the same time, there are some data tables has to create. For example, let us take a store point of sale system as an example. Being a biller, whenever there is a customer is coming, they are scanning the product and updating all the records. Being a business owner or a store owner, they want to see the data of people who has bought products in their store, right? So they want to see their number, means name of the person, it can be address, it can be phone number, contact. So this is all they have to maintain, right? This is all data. So how this data will be stored? The data has to be stored exactly in the column of name only. Whenever a person is typing the data, especially in the presentation layer, for example, name is typing, that has to go and store in the table where the name column is located. For example, they are mentioning the phone column, right? For example, contact number column was there. So when there is a number they are giving, right? Any mobile number or the contact number and all, that has to store in that server only, that table only. This is where generally this data tables has to create. Different data tables and all everything we will be creating here. So creation of data tables is also one of the key elements. So we have to create data tables. So whenever we are creating data tables, what will happen? So when there is an information we are giving through a presentation layer, that will be stored. So where this information will be stored? This information will be stored on the server, right? This information will be stored on the server. So for that, you require some data storage to be. Now you have stored the data. For example, being a business owner, you want to extract some data. For example, you want to know how many people, what was the sales. For example, what was the sales happened last month between 15th to 30th. Or else you want to know how many people have bought bath soaps in 15th to 30th between that time. Or else you want to know how many people have bought bath soaps, which is a brand of Lux in 15th to 30th between, for example, right? Because this is all to have a decision making for your business, how it is growing, right? Which product is moving fast, what is your sales, right? So you want to generate different reports being a business owner, isn't it? So if you want to do it, what is that required? You need to have an option where you have to extract the data from the server. So for that, these SQL and all everything are being used. This is what we call it a structured query language, right? Structured query language. There are different languages we use in the field of IT. The first one is called markup language. Different languages, because this is something more important. Being a non-IT person, one should know. Markup languages, the example is HTML, etc. Right? Hypertext markup language, we call it as. This is all we could talk about markup languages, right? HTML, etc. All these are comes under markup languages. So next, modeling language. So modeling language like UML, etc. Unified modeling language, whatever the use case diagram, sequence diagrams we have prepared, all these things are comes under modeling language. Next, third one is called programming language. Programming language using Java, right? C, C++, all that, where it will be used to write the code for a project. Just now I have told you, right? In the business logic layer, I told you. This is all about programming language. Next, query language. This is where you are extracting the data, useful to extract the data from the database. The best example for that example is SQL, right? So people write different SQL queries and all that. SQL, a structured query language, we call it as. Different SQL queries and all, everything they will write to extract, update, insert, delete the data and all, everything. Different queries they have to write. So these are the different languages will be there in the project, right? So markup language for hypertext markup languages, modeling language, UML, etc. All that. When is next programming language, which is C, C++, all these are comes under that category. Query language and all everything are comes under this one, like SQL and all everything are comes under query languages. So the structured query language where there is a language processor where it has to stored in the database engine. From this, whatever the physical database and all everything is being connected. So if a person who is working as a developer, he may be a developer having a knowledge over SQL and all everything. By connecting this database and management system, whatever the information they are doing to store the data into the server, if they want to extract this information, they have to write this SQL queries, all that. So being a business analyst, whenever we are working on application development, it's not only about knowing about what requirements we have given to the developers to write the code for the project, not only for testing related things, but you need to know how this data will be stored in the server and how this information will be extracted again to prepare some report generations and all. Being a business analyst, you must be good and you must be familiar with. So this is what generally being a BA, being a database, you need to know, because we will be interacting with multiple people in the real world. We will be interacting with development team, we'll be interacting with testing team. So what is that they are doing, in what extent they are doing, what is the technical complexity which is involved in it. So if you want to know about these things on a high level note, it is always important, it is always essentially required for us to have a high level view at least, so that it is easier for you to coordinate with the people for a better understanding over the application development being a BA. This is the reason why knowing about the database and all everything. So knowing about understanding over about database management system, all that is also one of the key element. So this is all being a BA in reference to the database, which you must be knowing and which you must be good with. Is it clear, Monica? Understood?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right. So this is all about right. So this is what generally the business process flow means. If you are a BA, what is that you are going to do? I am showing in a diagrammatical format here. You can see here. I'll be explaining one by one on a short note. Right. What is the stepwise? I'll tell you. That the first one is that you will be gathering the background information. Whenever you start working on the BA role, First of all, gathering background information is what generally you do. Second, once you gathered the background information, you identify stakeholders. That is the second thing. Once you have identified the stakeholders, you need to identify the business objectives. So whenever you have identified the business objectives, you need to identify the stakeholders and you need to manage them. This is a continuous process which we have to do. So based on the business objectives, what you have to do now, you need to do all the related background check, right? Wherein you need to evaluate what are the possible options to develop the project, all that. For that, what is that you have to do? You need to prepare a business case. If you remember, as part of enterprise analysis, I have explained this to you, right? Business case document.
Yeah. Yes, yes.
So once the business case document is there, the next is scope definition. You need to identify and define the scope of the project. So for that, it is essentially required to prepare project scope. If you remember, as part of the role of a BA with project manager, this part I have discussed, right? This is
yeah.
Next, you need to prepare a business analyst delivery plan, where the project planning and delivering of requirements. But project planning and all everything will be done by the project manager. Delivering of requirements and all everything will be done by the PA. Means being a business analyst, you need to confirm what requirements are essentially required, all that. And whatever you have identified the requirements, that has to be defined as a project requirements. For that to communicate, you need to prepare documents. Either two things.
Yeah.
If you follow the traditional practices, you prepare BRDs, use cases, all that. If you are following agile practices and all, in spite of writing documents, you are writing user stories. I have shown you on Jira. I hope in the last session I have shown how to write it in Jira, right? User stories, all that you can write. There are two ways, because you never know, right? When which project is working on traditional, which project in agile. So based on the decision, if they're asking you to write BRDs and all, you have to write it. If it is not like BRD and all, if people were asking you to work on agile environment, then you need to write user stories. So you must be experienced with these two. The reason why I have shared you the case study as well as the documentation also, BRD templates I have given you on the templates, because OJSA, the templates will be like that. Templates may have some variation, but end of the day, what information you want to insert in the documentation and all everything remains same and constant. Otherwise, if not business requirements documents, you can prepare you can prepare user stories, etc., all that. So if you want to prepare this documentation, where you need to have a knowledge over SDLC process, as I told you, because what kind of development lifecycle model are we going to use? Everything will be decided over here. Understood, Manka? Clear, right?
Yeah, right.
Next, you need to evaluate the value which is relating to the project. Next, you have to see the potential enhancements. If there is any potential analysis and all that. So where you have to see ROI. ROI matlab return of investment. Because the customer is investing some X amount of money, they expect some return of investment out of it. Right? This is what generally ROI stands for. So once you feel the return of investment is done, right? So once you have feel that project we have developed has potential enhancements we have done, finally closure of the project, and we will be submitting this project to the customer. In this, there are different people who will be involving in the project. So there will be a project manager, there will be a business analyst, there will be an architect, there are developer teams, developers are available, developers required, testing team is needed. Next, you require some user interface and user experience designers. At the same time, you require some, I can say like a deployment team, because nowadays we are calling it as DevOps team, right? Deployment team. Some documentation team will be there, right? All these are, I'm talking about the people who are working on the project on front, right? Apart from that, there will be some management team like project steering committee, right? So who will be managing the project, right? So next PMO, project management office, because every project, if you see in any organization, there won't be one project. There are multiple projects will be there. right? So there will be a higher authority which is called PMO, Project Management Office. That Project Management Office will take care of all that, right? So because being a BA, you need to coordinate all the people, right? So because one of the key responsibility being a BA we have to do is to coordinate with all the you need to coordinate all the people on regular intervals, right or not? Understood?
Yeah. Right. Right.
So you need to coordinate with all the people so that whatever the necessary requirements customer has and all everything is what you need to know. So in this process, knowing about the knowledge areas, knowing about the technicalities, having some knowledge over the domain part, right? It can be of any domain, right? It can be retailing, it can be healthcare, it can be banking, it can be insurance, it can be any other payments domain, all that. So those are add-ons. Being a business analyst role, those are add-ons to you. But knowledge over business analyst, experience on business analysis role, what kind of skill set, how to do, these are the activities remains constant, ek hi tha, right? So there won't be any difference. But what expertise being a business analyst in domain may vary from domain to domain. If you are in retailing domain and all, as we have discussing here, need to have a knowledge over the retail operations, right? Point of sale system, how inventory management, how store management will be taken place, all that you will be knowing. If you are a business analyst in healthcare domain, knowledge over the US healthcare system, etc., etc. If you are a business analyst in maybe in investment banking domain and all, you need to have a knowledge over investment banking operations, IPOs, mergers and acquisitions, all that. You are from payments domain and all, knowing about payment remittances, knowing about Swift code processings, right? All these things, right? So all these things are required. So of course, there are a lot of domains, in fact. So this is what and how generally being a BA, you will be doing in any of the project. Clear, Monica?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So this is all
Yeah.
about
Okay.
this is all about
And